So good morning and welcome. My name is Kevin Chan, and I'm the Technical Support Manager for the Nokia Store. And this morning, we're going to talk about packaging Qt apps and the process of packaging and submitting to the store. So more specifically, we're going to cover the requirements that you should keep in mind when you're publishing your app for the store, followed by the step-by-step instructions on using Qt Creator to package your Qt app. Then my colleague Gordon is going to cover the steps on submitting your content item to Nokia Publish and the process that happens afterwards while your application is in QA. And then we're going to wrap it up with a Q&A session afterwards. So I'm just going to jump right into it. These are the requirements that you should keep in mind when you're publishing an app to the Nokia Store. And these also happen to be common QA failures. So we'll start with the first requirement, basically using the latest Qt SDK. And you can download that from the developer.nokia.com develop Qt site. There's another site, which is the qt.nokia.com site, where you can download the Qt SDK, but you should note that they host unofficial releases or beta releases. So some developers have used a beta release of the Qt SDK to develop their app, only we cannot accept those apps because it may contain functionality that isn't currently available on the end user's device. This is a list of the devices that support both Qt and the Nokia Store. So all the latest devices since S60 5th edition support Qt 4.7, also in addition to the N9 and the N900. We also have Qt 4.6, and note that S60 3rd edition devices only support Qt 4.6, but not Qt 4.7. You can find this list also from the developer.nokia.com site within the distribute and the packaging and signing page. The Smart Installer is responsible for ensuring that the end user's device has the libraries that your application depends on. So it's a mandatory requirement to distribute the Smart Installer with your application packaged together. This only pertains to Symbian devices. I mentioned here that you should use the latest version of the Smart Installer. But the thing is, the Smart Installer actually hasn't changed much within the last 6 months. So it's suffice to actually just use the latest version of the SDK. Alternatively, you can use the Start Updater function within Qt Creator to make sure that your environment is up to date. Speaking of the Smart Installer, these are the packages that are hosted by the server. So we have Qt 4.6.3 and also Qt 4.7.3. So just to note that with the release of the upcoming Symbian Bell for Symbian 3 devices, that we will plan to release the Qt 4.7.4 versions of the libraries in conjunction with the Symbian Bell release. Another requirement here being the use of protected UIDs. So all Symbian apps, we can only accept protected UIDs starting from the range of 0 to x2. And if you were to use Qt Creator, when you create a new project, typically it will generate a UID from the test range. So you should note that you should obtain a UID from either us, if you are asking Nokia to sign your application on your behalf. You can send an email to developer.support@nokia.com to request the UIDs from the protected range. And also, you will receive a developer certificate key pair that you can use to test your application, which uses the protected UID. Alternatively, if you are submitting your application to Symbian Signed, then you should obtain the UID from Symbian Signed. So I made a note here about the app UID. So Gord's going to talk about this later on. Within the Nokia Publish tool, you define the application UID, And the thing to note here is that this UID has to match the UID of the executable that launches your application. So a common QA failure here would be applications that use multiple UIDs, or they have multiple EXEs, and the developer has specified a UID that isn't the actual launch UID. So in this case of the battery monitor, the application uses the UID ending in 317. And so in the Nokia Store client, when users click on the launch button, it will try to launch the executable that is mapped to this particular UID. Also, another common QA failure here is the vendor name should be specified to what you have defined within Nokia Publish. Gord will also talk about that later on. And also, I'll cover how you can specify the vendor name within QCreator. All applications to the store must be signed, whether it's by us with Nokia or through Symbian signed. The note here is that if your application uses system and user level capabilities, we could sign your application on your behalf, no problems. However, if you use restricted or manufacturer capabilities, then you need to go through a separate process. This is going through Symbian signed. And so all of this information is covered within the following guide here, within the developer.nokia.com site. So keeping in mind all those requirements, now I think we're ready to package our Qt app. So a lot of the discussion centers around Symbian devices, but I'll briefly talk about MeeGo at the end. There are 3 places where you can define the application UID. So previously, I mentioned about UIDs from the protected range. So you can either, at the very beginning, using the new Qt Quick application wizard, you can define the UID there. Alternatively, you can, if you're familiar with modifying the project profile, just adding the following statement there. And the last option would be, at the very end, if you select the Publish Project functionality from within QCreator, using the publishing wizard, you can also specify the UID at that time. Within QCreator, what you want to do is you want to define your build settings, so making sure that you are using the correct tool chain to build your application. So in this example, we're using Qt 473 for Symbian 3. When you select on the Run button, here you define your deployment settings. So the idea is you're creating a sys file, and then within the sys file, as I mentioned before, one of the requirements of packaging your application with the Smart Installer, so there's this little checkbox here to enable the QCreator, the Smart Installer packaging, as well as the certificate key pair. So I mentioned also that you will receive a certificate key pair that's used for testing your application. So it's not really used by us when we're processing your app. The certificate key pair is only used for you to test your app using the protected range UID. So you specify the certificate key pair within the run settings. There are 3 steps involved to build your application and packaging it. Build project will compile your source code. Then when you select deploy project, that will create the sys file with the Smart Installer and also signed with your developer certificate key pair. And then the last step would be to publish the project. And that kicks off the wizard. So if you already have done steps 1 and 2, then maybe you don't need to select this. All you're doing here is you're selecting the build configuration. Here you can also define the vendor names, as well as the UID. And then the last step where Qt Creator does its thing. Afterwards, one thing I want to mention. So afterwards, the end result here is that you'll generate a sys file that is, well, here it says unsigned, but if we specify the certificate key pair, it would be signed, it would be packaged with a Smart Installer, and this is sufficient enough to submit to the Nokia store. I'm not going to cover a lot of details about publishing Qt apps for the N9 other than to mention here that there's a document that covers all the store entry requirements, and you should follow those. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Gordon Thornton.
So now that you've created your application and it's ready to be submitted, we're just going to go over screen by screen, step by step on how to upload the application to the Nokia store. So first thing you want to do is get your own account. You go to www.publish.ob.com and register. It's a fairly simple process. Once you've done that, log into your account and click on the new content item, at which point you will be presented a menu that looks like this. Select your Qt-based application, and then you'll get taken to this screen. It's just 3 simple questions. Does your app have encryption? Do you have the rights to distribute this content? And have you adhered to our content guidelines, which we'll touch in a bit. Once you answer these 3, hit the continue button, and then you'll get taken to the metadata screen. This is effectively where you're going to be creating the packaging for your product. So much like a brick and mortar retail outlet where any product generally has some nice packaging with writing about the product and screenshots and stuff like that, this is essentially what we're doing here. So in the store, the process is you create your package first, then you upload your file into that little metadata box, and then you tell the store where it can distribute that file, which devices, what countries, whatnot. So here we're going to be obviously creating the packaging, the metadata. The first item here is the content file name. Note, this is not seen by end users. This is here simply to help you manage all the content you might have in the store. So you might have a Qt version of this application, and then maybe you have to do a Java version as well to service other devices. So really, this is just here to, once again, help you manage all your uploads. The next is a display name. This is seen by users in the store. So when you're, as a user, when you first go to the store and you do a search, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the store, but generally you'll see a list of apps with the icon and then the display name. That's what this name is here. Now once, as a user, I've decided, oh, this looks interesting, and I click it to download it, I'll get taken to a detail screen that will have this description text. It'll also have support information, your screenshots that you've uploaded. So this is really one of your first touch points with the user to help sell your app to them, entice them to download it, put really good adjectives and functionality and what the app does. If your app is fairly large, and I would say 10 megabytes in size, it might be good just to recommend they use Wi-Fi so they don't inadvertently get some very large carrier charges for your app for downloading it. The next aspect you need to pick here is the category. This is just to help apps filter out based on what the user is looking for. So if I'm the user and I'm in the store and I have an idea what kind of app I'm looking for, but I don't know a specific name, I might just press search, hit applications, pick the application category, and I'll get presented with these other lifestyle category, health, fitness. So to help better filter your app based on what users are looking for, you need to pick a category that best suits what your app is about. Once you've chosen your category, you'll have to pick a categorization tag. This is just used to help further filter content based on users' past experiences in the store and whatnot. You need to put at least 1 here, and with a maximum of 3. Then one last feature we have to also help filter content is the keywords field. So once again, users might find themselves in a position where they have an idea what they're looking for, but they don't know a specific app. If I was doing, say, video app, a Netflix type app, I might want to put keywords such as video, streaming, movies, TV, that sort of thing. So if I'm the user and I'm in the store, I'm like, I want to watch a movie, they might type movies, and at which point this will then help filter your app in that list that gets presented to them. One other thing I want to mention here is you do not use brand names. If there is a brand name in this keyword field, your item will fail, and then you will have to resubmit. We will not accept brand names or copyrighted terms in this keywords field. Next, select the price point for your app. It's a simple drop-down box where you get to select €1, €2, €3, whatnot. You can also go to the billing matrix here to see what that price point means in other territories. So if you select €1, hit the billing matrix, and they'll tell you, okay, what does that mean in, say, China or India or Australia? Next is support information. So users might encounter problems in your application, bugs, certain functionality problems, or even want to give you guys some good ideas and feature enhancements. So you need to have a valid support website and support email address here. If not, once again, the item will fail. This information is displayed in the details screen. It's displayed right underneath your description text, so any user who sees your app will be able to access this information and reach out to you as the publisher or developer. Once you've defined that, the last step to the packaging is just uploading the imagery. So the first one you need to upload is the icon. This is what is displayed in the a list view. So when the user is in the store and they see a list of apps, what they see is your icon image you've uploaded with your display name. One thing you do need to do is make sure the icon you use matches the icon you're using in the actual application itself. So when I'm on my device and I have a list of all the apps on my device, there's an icon for that application. You need to use the same icon graphic as you're using in the actual application itself. Next is the screenshot. You need to have at least one screenshot that is a direct representation of your application. We have had instances where people upload a screenshot that looks drastically better than what their application actually looks like. So you need to make sure the screenshot is taken directly from your app. There are tools like that in the store, so if you don't know how to get a screenshot of your app, you can download a screen snap tool, Best Screen Snap, and simply install that, and then you can easily take pictures of your application while you're running it. The Migo, well, all the images must be square except for the N9 uploads because of the different screen orientation for that device. So the screenshot for N9 must be different, otherwise all other images must be square. Right, so you have now effectively created the packaging, the box for your application. All we need to do now is upload it. So after you've pressed that create, you'll get taken to this screen. Simply select upload file or press the content file tab. Both will take you to the exact same place, which will be this screen. The first field you need to enter here is the content file name. This is not seen by users. Much like the other display name, this is just here to help you manage your various uploads. So a good use case here might be is you have an application, but you have different versions of that application to service different territories. You might have one that is specifically in Russian for Russia, or one for Spain, and at which point you can use this field to upload multiple files within your same packaging. What you don't want to do is, if you have two versions of your same application, is to create two separate actual content items, because then what that ends up happening is it'll be two store URLs. Makes it really hard for you to promote your app because of all the various different web links that users need to do to get the various apps. So what you want to do is, if you do have different versions, you want to create one metadata package file, upload your Russia file for this packaging. Then you can also get an option to upload another file for different territories or devices or whatnot. So what this does then is just gives you one store link, so you can promote all your versions of that same application using one web URL. So once you've done that, upload the file. This is a fairly simple process. Hit the browse. You'll get taken with an open file box based on your environment. Select the file and upload it. As Kevin mentioned, you need to specify the UID for your application. We do have a Symbian signing service, an express signing service. The Nokia store will also sign your app for you if you decide to select that. So I've done that. I've selected requested Nokia signing. You can email that developer.support@nokia.com. It's a very important website. We are here to pretty much help you guys out with any store or development issues. So very, very important website. You can also, email address. You can also go there and request the UIDs so you can package your app. You send us some mail, we'll send you 5 UIDs, and then you can use those UIDs for all your various applications. So here I've selected requested Nokia signing. I've got my UIDs, I've packaged it correctly. I'm then going to submit it, and the Nokia team will production sign my application for me. So now that I've uploaded the file, I just need to tell the store what it can do with that file. Which devices is this file for, what countries, and what languages. So here's the first part of the distribution. You must have at least one device marked as fully tested here. If you do not, the team will fail it and you'll have to resubmit. The cool thing here is if you have fully tested for, say, the N8, and then put assume to work for all other devices, even though you haven't tested it on the devices, the QA store will, the store team will go ahead and test spot check your application on those devices, and if it works, they will go ahead and release it for all those other devices as well. Once you've selected your devices, hit the next and get taken to the country distribution screen. Here, obviously pick all the countries that you feel you have the legal rights to distribute your application in. There are some guidelines on our side where we will not let certain applications go to all the countries based on that country governance. So if it's in the, say, some Middle Eastern territories, they won't let certain content go. And if you have those territories selected, it'll be another failure point requiring you to go ahead and resubmit your application after the corrections. If you're not sure what some of these countries are, you can go to that website and hit the Nokia Store guidelines, at which point you'll get shown these countries which are very sensitive on what kind of content they are. I do upload quite a few first-party applications, and for time-sensitive uploads, what I tend to do is, unless we're actually targeting some of these countries, I might just, and I'm not sure if the app will adhere to these guidelines, I would just remove them completely from my initial upload. Once it's passed and live in the store, I can then go back in and then re-enable those countries. And if it fails, it's not going to cause my app to be removed from the store. Whereas opposed, if I did it at the first outset and they failed, then I would have had that delay requiring me to go back in and resubmit. So once you're happy with that, hit next, and you will hit to the last step, which is telling the store what languages your application supports. Fortunately, if your app supports English, you can just select all languages, and which means your app will be allowed to get delivered to any device that has any language setting on it. However, if your app doesn't support English, you will have to go through and hand select the languages your application supports. Right, so you've defined all that. You need to hit save. And once you've done that, please hit the Submit to QA button. This happens quite often. People will email us, why isn't my app live yet? And we'll log into the store and we'll, oh, well, you haven't actually submitted it yet. So. And as I mentioned, you might want to upload another file to service different distribution sort of requirements, at which point you can simply just add another file after you've uploaded the content item. One thing I just wanted to mention before we move on is there is help text at all times on the screen there, so feel free to refer to it if you're ever unsure. And if that's not helping you, by all means, please email us. That's what we're here for. Right, so you've done your part. You've submitted the app. There really is nothing else you need to do. I do recommend once you've submitted the app, it will take up to about 5 days to get your app live. It is recommended you check your account on a daily basis because there is information in the system at the bottom that will tell you at what phase your upload is at and are there any problems they've run into. So, it's good to manage that. So once the app has been submitted, it goes through a 4-step process. So the signing team will make sure that your app is packaged correctly, as Kevin has touched on, making sure you're using protected UIDs. It's packaged with the Smart Installer correctly. Once they do that, they'll then sign it for the tester devices with the dev pairings. And they'll go ahead and test your application, making sure everything's okay. Once they're okay with it and it is passed, it will go back to the signing team for final production signing, and then it gets uploaded to the store. As mentioned, some countries do have certain requirements on what content can be distributed there. That's what this moderation team is. So when you first submit your app, it goes to the signing team, they will sign it for them, then it goes to the moderation team. Now these guys will make sure that the images you're using in your metadata and the text you're using is okay, it all represents your application, the screenshot actually matches your app. Maybe some of your metadata too might have certain imagery that isn't allowed in a certain country, so they'll do this moderating just to make sure that you have selected the country specifically where your app can get released to. And here's just an example of some of the suspect type of imagery that will not be allowed in these territories. So as I said, if you're not unsure or you're unclear whether your app will pass and you're not specifically focusing these territories, it might be best just to remove them for your initial upload. And then once your app is live, go back in and re-enable them to increase your territories. So once the moderation team is happy, it will then move on to the certification team. And these guys will actually test your application against our store guidelines. So it's really important that you go over the guidelines that are found at in the support tab of the account, and you can look on those guidelines, test your app against those guidelines. It's just things like making sure you're handling orientation correctly, telephony features correctly. So these are the test cases our team will apply to your app. And if you are sure and you have performed those test cases already and know your app is fine, then there should be no problems with getting this application out the door. One thing to note, these guys are working 24 hours, 5 days a week. If you have time-sensitive content, please be aware of this 5-day period. If you need to have your item out on, say, Wednesday, please don't upload on a Friday. So once that is all signing, moderation, and certification teams are happy, it goes to the publishing phase, which is just production signing that and exporting it. So as you can see, we're releasing about 3,000 items a day, and the export windows are about every 4 hours over, obviously, the 24-hour period. And yeah, if your item is not live in the store 5 business days after submitting, please feel free to reach out to us and ask us why, or log into your account. And as I said, you can scroll to the bottom and see all the comments from these various teams on what were the failure issues, what you need to do to correct in the application or in your submission to get the application live. So that's it. I don't know if you guys got any questions for Kevin and I, packaging the app or submitting it to the store.
I heard some pitfalls that, for example, if you choose American English in case of English, then you would have a problem that it cannot be published to all language areas. Is this right?
Yeah, I have not heard of that. I don't think we have the ability to select UK or US English. It is just English in the store.
Actually, I can clarify. So there are 2 options. English, and there's English with the US in parentheses. So I believe there's a mention in the supporting documentation about this. So if you are distributing globally, you can select English without the US in the parentheses. So that's what you need to select in your language distribution.
Okay. Another question. How is the application only needs to support this language in its content? It's not necessary to do any configuration for the language. Is this right? So only the language of the text in the application is relevant, not any configuration in any file.
I think a good sort of baseline to follow is to make sure that all text that the user needs to be able to read in order to use the application needs to be in the language you're specifying. So I guess what you're talking about is you might have a video app. Maybe the videos aren't in English, but all the on-screen text is in English to help them navigate the app and find the content they're looking for. Yes, that would be fine.
Okay.
Sure. So the first question is connected with developer.support@nokia.com. So what kind of information do I need to provide to this email account in order to get the proper UID?
Okay, so you will need to just make a request for the number of UIDs you require. Typically, we give out 5 of them if no other information is provided to us. As well, you need to specify your device IMEI because we will distribute to you a certificate key pair, which is connected directly to your device IMEI.
Okay, thank you. And the second short question is connected with application development mainly, maybe less with publishing. So what operation system do you recommend to use in order to get less problems in publishing? Actually, I had an experience maybe not a couple of months, maybe half a year or even a year ago when the SDK for Windows and Linux-based system was a bit different in the area of publishing, and I get a couple of problems because of that. So what's the current status?
Okay, so I'm not aware of the current issues with using Linux-based machine, but if you would like to send me an email, I'll give you my contact details afterwards. I can follow up that question for you in particular.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question. Maybe it's not the proper way, but then still. In case I want to test my applications over multiple devices, is there a way where I can upload my application and maybe Nokia has a tool where it runs on different devices, touch and non-touch, and I have a checklist of test cases which it says whether it passes or not?
Okay, so for multiple devices, we do have the remote device access service, which gives you access to a wide range of Symbian devices that are both touch and non-touch. So as far as tools are concerned, that is currently available. Does that answer your question? Or
the reason I ask is, as you said, if I select multiple devices when I'm publishing to the store and they fail, the QA fails it, then it does not get published. So how do I know beforehand if I have only a subset of devices? How can I confirm that they will really pass?
Okay, so yeah, so within the publish system in your device distribution, you can select assume to work. What you should do, however, is with each family of Symbian devices, you should at least test for each of them. So for instance, we have Symbian 3, we have Series 65th edition, or otherwise known as Symbian 1 devices, and then we have the Series 63rd edition. So Series 63rd edition are non-touch devices. If you're targeting that range of devices, then you should at least have one device that you're testing with. Series 65th edition and Symbian 3 and later are touch devices, so they have the same resolution. The only difference is being in the processor, the amount of memory. So I think you would, testing on one of each device family would allow you with a high level of confidence to be able to determine that that it would most likely pass QA. So if you've tested on each family, then you should be safe.
I think with Symbian 3 and 5th edition is not much of a problem. The problem comes with 3rd edition,
Okay.
because the screen sizes are all different depending on whether it's an E-series phone or an N-series phone, and henceforth. So that's where the problem comes. I mean, you cannot have so many of devices. Some support QVGA, so that's where it kind of gets a little.
Yeah. Did you want to? I just did. Okay. Handling QVGA. Well, if there are tools available, like such as the emulator, for instance, from the Series 60 3rd edition SDK, where you can adjust the resolution. So from 240 by 320, you can adjust it so that you can rotate from portrait to landscape. I would recommend, using that. And also, as what Gord just mentioned to me, using the remote device access service.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe one more short question.
Sure.
Am I right considering that I need to create different application accounts for Symbian and N9 distribution according to some differences in the publishing guidelines, e.g. the screenshot size or what's more?
So is your question about the Nokia Publish accounts, like the username?
The question is about application accounts. You told us that we need to create the single application account on the Nokia store, and after that we may upload several different files for different countries, different devices, what's more. But the problem is that according to guidelines, there are some differences in publishing procedure for Symbian and MeeGo devices. I mean, e.g., as in your presentation was mentioned, the screenshot size is different. And is there any possibility to specify these options for different files, or do I need to create different accounts?
I'm going to borrow Kevin's, you can ask us later. Because recently the store would allow you would upload a cute Symbian 3 app, and then it would give you an option to upload a cute MeeGo app. That has changed where it's now just upload a Qt-based application. I do need to I will have to go into the store to just take a look and answer that question for you, but it is a valid question because of the different screenshots versus for Symbian versus MeeGo. I'm not sure if the system right now does allow you to do that, so I just need to double check with you on that. But the quick answer is it should be allowed.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that concludes the presentation. We'd like to thank you for coming out, and it's nice to be able to talk to developers and get feedback about your publishing experiences to our system. So feel free, even afterwards, if you want, we'll be here for the next session anyway. So if you want to come and ask us questions, and yeah, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.